Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening. We're going to start now. So thank you, Yogan. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Surbiton Neighbourhood Committee at Glenmore House. And a particularly warm welcome to those members of the public with us tonight. I'm Councillor Tom Reeve and I'm chairing this meeting. In the event of an emergency and the sounding of alarm, the emergency evacuation procedure is to leave the hall by the fire exit, the one behind you, and congregate in the car park. Anyone requiring assistance should remain in their seats and you'll be assisted from the building. Anybody who wishes to follow the agenda from their tablet or smartphone can do so by going to the Council's website and following the links to Your Council and Council meeting calendar. This meeting is being filmed for live broadcast on the Council's YouTube channel, and an archive version will be available to view after the meeting finishes. The broadcast will be suspended during any adjournments in proceedings, and if the committee resolves to consider information as exempt business. Members are reminded that microphones must be switched on and spoken into clearly for the broadcast. And please, can everyone present, please ensure that your mobile phones are switched off or in silent mode. Thanks very much. So I'll start by inviting members to introduce themselves and start with members across from me. Councillor?
Councillor Peter Hurling, representing Alexander Ward.
Councillor Ian Manders, also representing Alexandra Ward, and I'm also the portfolio holder that covers climate action, open spaces, energy, and a host of other issues, and planning policy.
Councillor Emir Ali Khan for Surbiton Hill Ward.
Hello, I'm not sure this. Is this on? Yeah, sorry. I'm Councillor Diane White from St Mark's and Seething Wells. Thanks.
Please, shall we carry on?
Sorry about that. This is Councillor Yogan Yoganathan, St Mark's and Seething Well Ward. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name's Councillor Anita Sharper. I'm Councillor in Barrowlands Ward. Thank you.
And I'm Jackie Davis, also from Barrowlands Ward.
Hello, I'm Andrew Waldridge from Tolworth Ward.
Yeah, East Tytalan, Councillor for Tolworth Ward. Good evening, thank you.
Good evening, Mariana Gonçalves, also from Tolworth.
Well, thank you very much, councillors. So I'm required to advise members that in accordance with paragraph 6.3 of the procedural rules for planning committees, the planning application relating to Willow Grange on Adelaide Road was withdrawn from the agenda as no registered objector has registered a speaking slot by the deadline. The item has accordingly been reverted to the Director of Planning and Regeneration to determine under delegated powers and will not be considered by the committee. The responding applicant also lost his right to address the committee. The other planning application relating to land at the rear of 21 to 23 The Ridge will be considered by the committee as objectors have registered to speak. So we have a period of no more than 30 minutes for questions on matters relevant to the committee. We like to encourage questions to be submitted in advance so that officers have an opportunity to answer them, although that's not absolutely necessary. Okay, so we have one person here to ask questions tonight, David Cox. So I'd like to invite you to ask your first question, and then you can ask your second question. Okay, fine, and just that would be fine. Okay, so we'll just ask you to be as concise as possible and try and keep your question to under 2 minutes if possible.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So thank you.
A year ago, the repair zone, one of those shops without customers at 60 Victoria Road, installed rolled steel shutters, contrary to local planning regulations. I reported this matter to the planning department and to this committee at the December meeting last year. The shutters are still in use and they have, as I predicted, already been graffitied and thankfully cleaned off. These shutters are banned because when rolled down at night and eventually graffitied, they make a high street look ugly and hostile. I'd like to know if anything has been done since I reported this matter to the planning department, because I've not had anything back from them. Is the portfolio holder for planning here? Is it yourself, yeah? Look, whenever I've raised issues about the planning department, and it's usually about estate agents boards, I'm told that they're incredibly busy. But it strikes me that Kingston's planning department would sooner add some of these non-priority jobs to their list of things they'll never get around to doing, rather than just pick up a phone as soon as a complaint is made. That way, the shopkeeper, in this case with the shutters, will at least know that they're not supposed to do it.
Excuse me. Right. Sorry for the interruption. Please carry on.
Okay. I would very much like it if, when the planning department gets a complaint, instead of adding it to the list of non-priority jobs, which they never seem to get round to, just pick up the phone and contact the person who has broken the rules, at least put them on notice that they shouldn't be doing it, and perhaps promise to take action against them. Word will soon spread to other shopkeepers if that is done, but as things stand, it seems word is spread that you can do what you want in this borough, and that the rules apply only to those who are prepared to submit to them. Please, can I get some response from the planning department or yourself on this matter?
Right. Well, thank you very much. I do have a reply from the Head of Development Management, but if you would like to address this.
No, Chair, I suggest you read that first. And,
yes.
And then if I have any comments, I'll add to that.
Okay, that would be fine. Okay. No, I was just noticing you were looking to speak. Right. Okay, well, I've had a response from the Head of Development Management, and he says, the resident should be directed to the website to see how enforcement cases are triaged and investigated. Enforcement complaints are managed in strict accordance with the Council's local enforcement plan, which is available on the website. Upon receipt, each complaint is subject to triage, ensuring that finite resources are directed towards those breaches which present the greatest risk, namely those with the potential to cause irreversible harm to the nature or built environment, which give rise to public safety concerns. With respect to roller shutters, it should be recognized that not all installations require planning permission. In instances where permission is necessary and an application is submitted, officers undertake a balanced assessment, weighing the legitimate benefits associated with crime prevention against any adverse visual or amenity impacts that may result. And it must be emphasized that the planning enforcement regime is not punitive in nature. Its purpose is to remedy breaches and mitigate harm rather than to punish those involved. A formal enforcement action is reserved for cases where such action is demonstrably in the public interest, reasonable, and proportionate to the harm identified. So that's the response that I've had from the Head of Development Management. Did Councillor Manders, did you wish to come in on that, or do you have anything to add to that? If you don't, if not, that's fine.
No, I think, Chair, I will add to that, because I know this is an issue which is important to Mr. Cox, and we know that because he's been here on a number of occasions. And Also, I have complete sympathy as well. There are rules, and it's clearly an issue when they can't be enforced. But I just want to add really a word of the reality as things are in local government. So I think overall in local government, where local government is costs, and primarily I'm talking about statutory duties, such as adult social services and children's services, such as education, where the cost of them are exceeding basically the income that's been provided for them, either by the government or by what we're allowed to spend. This is creating a crisis all the way across local government. The vast majority of our expenditure goes on social services and children's services. And also there's an increasing number of homeless people as well, which we have a statutory duty to find accommodation for. So this does mean that services that in the past may have been adequately resourced are no longer resourced to the level that we would wish. There's only a very small team who are involved in enforcement of breaches of planning consents, and the vast majority of their work is against very, very serious breaches of planning, particularly in the Green Belt, and a third of this borough is in the Green Belt. These cases can be very long and very expensive. It's also a moving target because the people involved who break the rules will pop up under a different guise and do something very similar again. Kingston's had some success with this, so there's been a number of cases where, in fact, we've won, or rather we've enforced the action, then the government inspector then has turned it down, and then we've gone to court and won. But as you can imagine, that whole process is very, very expensive indeed. I mean, we're talking about over £200,000 for those kind of enforcement cases. So it has meant that some of the stuff like this has fallen through the gaps. The other thing I should add is that there's still this ongoing problem with, well, I won't really call them travellers, but there's a group of people who do move around the country and squat on open land. Sometimes it's public open land, sometimes it's private land, and then move on, leaving a vast amount of litter and dumped waste behind. And the enforcement team do tend to drop everything to try and make sure that those people are moved on very, very quickly. So I'm sorry to give a very long answer, Chair, to this, but I felt it was important to answer fully, because I know that Mr. Cox and other people feel very strongly about these issues, and I just wanted to put it in the context. And clearly, if there's a supplementary question and it comes to me, then I may try and answer that.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. I think that helps contextualise things, and I certainly recognise what you're saying about local government budgets. Councillor White and then Councillor Yoganathan.
Thank you very much. Oh, I've got it on now. Sorry, it was me, obviously, before. Just in the context of what Ian's just been saying, I was wondering about a slightly different approach, and maybe to the business community, because there is a fledgling business community that is, well, there's a wonderful business community, but a fledgling organisation that's bringing them all together, and wonder if that's where the work could be done, and almost from the businesses within saying, we'd rather not see this, it's not good for us, and the pressure come within. So I just wondered if that was a way that we could talk this through. There are council connections with the business community, so a way in, and maybe that's where the conversations could be had possibly instead.
Who will have that conversation?
Who will have that contact?
Who will raise that conversation with the businesses in the high street?
Well, I can take that back and speak to them about it. we're missing our colleague Councillor Holt tonight because she normally deals with that in our part of the word, but I'll make sure that that goes back, and Herman will remind me because he'll put it in the minutes to do that. But I will take that away and go to them and find out what they feel about it, what they can think, and introduce you if that's something that you would like.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Yoganathan.
Anyway, David, thank you very much indeed. I think if you remember, David, I know you are absolutely right. You came here on the 1st of December and then I sent it to the council inquiries. Dominic Sullivan, you were asking me whether he see part of the whole thing. There was a reference number, ME 614, was issued for the things on 60 Victoria Road. And then you did come here for something else, you asked that. And then there was an issue like Ian Manders was talking about. It used to be Anthony Knight, only one person. He's gone. To my information is Toby Felton.
Okay.
But whatever I sent it to you, you received it and you connected me. I'm looking at the old email.
But I mean, what good is that to me as a resident who wants some action done?
By the end of the day,
It's just another name, isn't it?
No. But the thing is, because as a councillor, you come here, it is a great respect that you come here and put that issue. I know you always come along and talk about these sort of issues, about
the appearance of our borough,
absolutely.
Yes, of our
But
town centre. Yeah.
as far as ourselves is concerned, we pass it on to the right people with the ME 614, and then Herman and Tom decided to take it up. And I don't know what happened. Somewhere after March,
I'd guess nothing's happened.
it got lost. Having said that, I think the biggest problem is there is not enough staff.
Okay. Well,
But
I've heard that so often.
Okay.
But we can't all have the luxury of only dealing with priorities, can we?
yes,
In every job I've had, you have to deal with small stuff as well. Otherwise, they become big stuff.
all I can say is
I've got one final comment. Sutton manages to do this.
Okay.
I know that.
Okay.
I don't know why this borough can't do it.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Thank you very much indeed. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much, David, and sorry about it, but we will catch up later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. So we now move on to petitions. There's been no notice of intention to submit a petition. Apologies for absence. Herman, do we have apologies?
Thank you very much, Chair. Apologies for absence were received from Councillors Liz Green and Alison Holt.
Right, thank you, Herman. So we move on to declarations of interest and attendance at site visits. Members are asked to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or any other registrable or non-registrable interests relevant to items on the agenda. According to the Planning Committee procedure rules, formal and personal site visits conducted need to be recorded in the minutes. In respect of the application on land to the rear of 21 to 23 The Ridge, Councillor Peter Herlinger, Councillor Anita Schapper, and myself visited the site with an officer on the 3rd of November. Do any other members have declarations of interest on this or any other matters tonight? Yes, Councillor Tyler.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare a non-registrable interest in relation to item 6 on the agenda, the Council Award funding. I am involved with Kingston Tamil Heritage Group and one of the organisers. I'll be withdrawing from the meeting and I will not participate in any debate or voting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Are there any other declarations of interest or site visits to declare? No, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the minutes. The minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of October have been circulated to members. Do we confirm approve the minutes? Okay, sounds unanimous to me. Right, we move on to Community Grants Programme. So that's item 6 on the agenda. And members of the committee and meeting participants, you can refer to Appendix A of the agenda pack for information on these. Tonight, the committee will consider an application for neighbourhood community grant and 2 allocations of councillor ward funding. And we have James Geach, our neighbourhood manager, here. And I believe our first application for neighbourhood community grant is from Man and Boy. James.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that's a good summary. So as set out in the agenda papers, the committee has once again been asked to make awards as part of its community grants programme. And as you've set out, there's 3 awards for you to consider, the first being a Neighbourhood Community Grant Award to Man and Boy, the second being a council award funding allocation to the Tamil Heritage Group, and the third being a council award funding to the Surbiton Club for the Blind. I'll start with the Neighbourhood Community Grant. Man and Boy are a local charity who are applying for a £3,000 award to support their ongoing vulnerable children's programme. And as you can see in paragraph 5 of the report, the application meets all the minimum requirements of the programme. Paragraph 6 to 8 set out the activities of the group, and there's a detailed list of those activities in paragraph 10. A budget has been appended, and that's in paragraph 11. And most importantly, as you can see in paragraph 13, this application will meet 5 different outcomes of the Surbiton Neighbourhood Community Plan. We're very fortunate to be joined by Mr. Tom Todd from Man and Boy, who's very kindly agreed to give you a brief introduction of this year's application, a breakdown of previous awards, and how this funding will be awarded, should it be awarded this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, if I could invite Tom Todd to come to the table. And we'll just ask you to speak for no more than 3 minutes, please. Herman will let you know when there are 30 seconds left. So just to help you time it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, James. Thank you, councillors. I think last time I did it in 120 seconds, so I'm thankful for the additional 60 seconds. I'll try and keep to that. James has introduced us. I think I need say no more. And I know many of you here in this room are familiar with Man and Boy's work. Can I be heard okay? A little bit louder? Okay. And I think with the helpful feedback we had from you, Councillor, there were 2 particular areas in our application that you asked for us to try and touch on. One was outcomes from last time, and secondly is the road ahead for the future. And in relation to outcomes, then very briefly, we've just had our latest impact report published and circulated. I think a number of the councillors this September had it across their desks, perhaps, and it had reported that between 85% and 95% of the families reported better relationships as a result of the programme, and plan to take further action in light of the programme with each other going forward. As you'll know, the outcomes connect with relationships with themselves, so emotional well-being, with each other, then back with the family, that's the mother and the community, and that includes school, with impact across attendance, engagement and performance at school. The joining the dots from there with what we know the further impact is from national statistics. There's an impact upon health and employment pathways thereafter, and then with the criminal justice system, the influential Lost Boys report has stated that approximately 80%, I think it's 76% of children in custody had an absent father. So the pathways are quite clear. This October in the camp, so just bringing it closer to home, without mentioning names, so the names are changed for privacy purposes. The family included a daughter who was severely autistic. John, the brother, name changed as I said, is so young boy, but effectively the carer full-time. Man and Boy as through the SEND and other pastoral care pathways, referrals are made to Man and Boy. Man and Boy helped dad and son get the time that they needed together away from day-to-day circumstances, and as a result of that, Dad has engaged and seen how important
30 seconds.
it is for him to spend time with John in the future, and John is clearly a lot more confident following the program. Going forward, we look forward to continuing our commitment to the local community, including taking on new families from the area, and also our care for those families who continue to stay engaged. And we are improving our, growing our connectivity with local referral agencies, like Achieving for Children, for example, and thankful for any support that can happen there with the model, particularly a procurement model. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that. Do members have any questions for the applicant? And so I've Councillor Davies. Anybody else? No, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your budget, and I don't quite understand where you sit in the space between a charity and something run by volunteers and somebody with professional costs, because you have staff costs, in the brackets detail your staff costs, £4,239, admin costs £911. I know photocopying costs money, but who's getting that money?
911 admin costs, or are you referring to the 40-some thousand? Right, okay. In terms of full-time staff, I could supply numbers on both the full-time and part-time staff. There we have the director. We have a community engagement officer. There is an admin officer. There are a series of other volunteers thereafter to engage on the different streams of work. So the camps, at the end, the activities and the courses. But I think across the full-time and part-time staff, paid staff, those are probably the roles that exist for running it, and so it's a combination of like a regular charity employee team, plus also a number of volunteers. It's a combination of both.
Sorry, follow up. So £4,000 doesn't sound enough to support all those people if they're doing it as a full-time, part-time? I don't understand how this works.
We had the director was full-time last year because of a constraint on budget. He did move to part-time, but we're anticipating that he would move back to full-time.
Sorry, could you speak up just a little bit, or move the microphone closer to you, possibly just inch it a little bit closer?
Sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
We're just having a little trouble hearing you. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The director was full-time and then last year moved to part-time because of budgetary constraints, but we're anticipating in the coming year we'll move back to full-time, partially because, among other things, we have, you'll know the national conversation after the adolescent series and Sir Gareth Southgate's BBC lecture has created attention around this area, the needs of disadvantaged boys and men. Hence, we've had contact from the BBC, also who have interviewed us recently, as there's not a lot of provision for this in different places. And a local county council has now engaged our services on a procurement basis, having identified it as a local a gap in local provision. So anyway, the point of saying that is on the back of that kind of procurement support, we're anticipating the director potentially moving to full-time again. But that is where if the suggestion is that the model is allowing us to straddle both paid employees within a charity and also volunteers to deliver what we're delivering, then yes, that's exactly what's happening. Yeah.
Yes, Councillor White.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I am very aware of the wonderful work that you do, and and it was interesting to hear the outcomes there, which I did find on your website as well. A couple of points, so it's just sort of teasing things out a little bit. In my voluntary sector life, working with disadvantaged children and young people, one of our main struggles to refer and work with you was our boys and young men didn't have a man to come with. And that's something I've spoken over the years to man and boy with. So I just wondered if there was any sort of work in that field, because they particularly need help and support because they just don't have the role model. And the other, I know sort of the pairings meet up together and they carry on and do that support. But per head of child, it seems quite heavy, quite high cost. So I wondered if you'd explored any other ways of doing this a little bit more. So, you know, rather than going away, expanding the Saturday morning or whatever activities.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, in response to the first point, the model has been to work as closely as possible, essentially with the mother. And you're absolutely right. There are boys who are referred who don't have a trusted adult male role model in his world. There are other organizations who will parachute in, say, a mentor, and that does address the matter because there's a trusted adult male role model who's trained to deliver support. And we do signpost in those instances to partner charities who have that provision. We've chosen this is from sector analysis and from external counsel too. We've stayed with the model of looking for support within the family, and counsel that's for the following reasons. One, there are a number of streams of support needed within the sector. Different models are important. And secondly, connected with that, one of the most important ones is a model that's providing a trusted adult male role model from within the family, wherever that exists, because of the longevity. Once a 12-month program is finished from a mentor, the family disappears and the mentor stays with the charity. The family doesn't have the ongoing support. But if the provision comes around the family with an adult trusted male role model who's identified and things are fine to click and work, the family has already been equipped and things are in place for the family to move on without the charity. And I should say that it's not just a father. It can be a grandfather, it might be an uncle, it might be a brother. There are a range of different individuals who have been identified by the mother and maybe the school as the right trusted male role model to support the boy. In relation to the second question, also a very helpful question, Councillor, and we have maintained the activities as being activities where we've seen optimal engagement. So we could do a classroom, could do a lecture, but the reality is men and boys, particularly men and boys who have come out of these kinds of circumstances, it's got to be hands get dirty, and so it's outdoor activity. They're doing things together, and this provides the context for these kinds of matters to be explored. I recognise you're not saying don't do that. You're saying can there be other ones that can be looked at, and the answer is yes. We simply operate within what is available within the region, within the locality, and we do have a number of corporate providers who help us with the best spaces available within budget. And just responding further briefly to Councillor Davies, I should have said also in my answer, this might also help, that the figures were in respect of just the number of families being looked at within the borough. It would have looked a lot larger, you're right, if it was for all beneficiaries. You're welcome.
Any follow-up? No. Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. So. How big is the man and boy organisation in total? So, beyond Surbiton and Kingston.
How many beneficiaries did you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just something to give us a scale of the
Yeah.
size, an idea of the scale of your organisation.
Thank you, Councillor. Sure. It's about 70 and then there's that's for each year, and then there's an attrition rate of about 50%. So in any given year, there's an intake of about 70, and then from the prior year's intake, about 50% retention remains, and then actually from the year before that, there's another 50%. So each year that drops. So one can do the maths, but it's that's 70 plus the 35 plus the whatever there's 17 and a bit. It's not quite as tidy maths as that, but that's approximately the scale we're talking about. And the delivery is primarily to the 12-month intake, so those who join in any particular year. But the wraparound support it continues for those other families who continue to stay engaged. Wraparound support, sorry, that's not the right terminology, but there's a level of engagement and support to those families who have come through the program and continue to stay engaged with us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So, the children in Surbiton would be just a kind of a small group of the people that you work with. The other question I had was, if we were to give you to decide to award a slightly smaller amount, say £2,000, would you still be able to? What would you be able to do with that?
That's a good question, Councillor.
How would you adjust?
Right. Thank you, Chair. Well, I don't know the answer to that, but one of two things would happen. Either there would be an adjustment, and we'd have to look for funding elsewhere, which is a challenge because there's not a lot of funding that is geographically specific in the area. So the pot that we have here from you, for instance, is geographically related and allows us to stick to honour our commitment to families in the area. It's not that we wouldn't if that funding wasn't available, but it does mean it becomes more challenging because some of the other pots are also geographically allocated to us and from other areas. So it becomes more difficult to say with that money, we'd like to use it to support families here when that money is to be used elsewhere. In fact, we just can't. But what we can do is dip into where it's available unrestricted core funding, of which, as you'll all know, is not easy to come by always. So we can do that. So that's an adjustment on the, that would be adjustment on the numbers. Alternatively, we don't adjust the numbers, we continue the commitment, but it would be finding how we can access funding in one of the other ways I mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions from members? Councillor Tyler.
Thank you, Chair. Does Man and Boy work with closely with any other charities supporting young people, say, for example, Oxygen? Do you share any of their work? Or?
Thank you, Councillor. Man and Boy is collaborative and so works with both a number of local charities and both public sector and private sector organisations within the borough and a little bit further afield. I think Oxygen it might be one of them also, but I'd want to defer to our director, Jim Clements, who a number of you know, who can maybe talk to that more specifically. The White Spider, for instance, help with premises for the climbing the wall and matters like that. We work closely with Achieving for Children also for the referrals and ongoing support, and closely with a number of local schools. There's a longer list than that. I could extend that, but I'd be happy to circulate something afterwards with some more names on it, if you like, from our director Jim, because there are a number we work with together.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wooldridge.
Hello, hi.
Hi, I do know Man and Boy, and it's all getting a bit tough, as you probably, even we're quibbling over 3,000, so, which I apologise for. But I do have a question. Last year the income was 109,000, the total expenditure was 140,000. What happened to the bit in between, the deficit, and do you have a working overdraft on it?
Thank
It's a tough question, I do apologise. I just need to have some sort of idea and handle on the charity.
Thank you, and thank you for also your recognition of the challenges with funding in this climate and for your support, support for the work that we do. We've had there've been challenges financially with fundraising. It's been a difficult climate. However, we've had good support, and there have been both local funders with whom we have relationships where there's evidence of that growing. So this is kind of the second part of your question, so plugging that gap. We've had evidence of that funding growing. Also, I think because of the attention on us a little bit further afield, I want to say nationally, because the BBC and others like this, we've had support. We've been contacted with those who are essentially saying, we listened to say out Southgate, we read Lost Boys, we've seen Adolescents. Can't find a lot of people who are working in this. In fact, it's been a difficult conversation, really almost since for decades. But what has helped us is the comment that the Sir Southgate made, which has been repeated in lots of places, is one of the important streams of work to be done to be supporting women and girls is to make sure there's also support in the right way for men and boys who are often at some of the root places where some of the challenges arise for women and girls. So that's helped people contextualize the support. The point I'm making there is attention further afield has helped with some of the funding opportunities, and we're thankful for that. The deficit that you're referring to, I think essentially got addressed in at least three ways briefly. One, we cut back in hours, so we had staff who were willing to move from full-time to part-time and make some adjustments. And truth be told, probably move to a more do some of that work voluntarily, so they wouldn't maybe say that or want to say that, but that's what they did. I don't think anyone was overworked in the wrong way. And secondly, we've still, I think, complied with the reserves policy, but it's meant we've been a little bit thinner there. And thirdly, it's the slice of additional funding, which we've just generally seen with support, but that's more for the future rather than last year.
Right, okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions? Councillor Jürgen Nathan.
Thank you very much indeed for your explanation and your time. I have met you at South Borough School. What I wanted to find out is, this is for this Surbiton neighbourhood. Do you also apply for other neighbourhoods, like Neighbourhood, Kingston, and Chessington, please?
Short answer, thank you for that question, and particularly the suggested encouragement that maybe we should do that. We do, and we have had very welcome support across the borough. In fact, tomorrow I'm at south of the borough. Yes. There are others we've not looked at, possibly within potential council funding, and we welcome guidance. We in the past had maybe thought looking at other pots in addition to these ones might work against us. I don't know, but if you feel there are other pots that we could explore, we'd greatly welcome advice there.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think we could draw questions to a close. Thank you very much for answering the questions. We'll now have a brief debate amongst ourselves, and then a vote on the allocation. So if you'd like to return to your seat, thank you very much for coming and answering our questions. So now as noted in paragraph 12 of the report, the committee currently has £2,000 of neighbourhood community grant funding remaining, hence the reason for my question. But we also have £17,000 of council ward funding. If the committee would like to award the full £3,000, which has been requested by the applicant, the committee would need to agree to also allocate £1,000 of council ward funding to support the project. So with members' consent, I propose that rather than make a motion, propose the motion now, that the committee proceed with the debate on the application first, and then if the committee is minded to partially fund the application or fully fund the application, or basically based on the preference that I hear from the committee, I'll make the appropriate motion. So would members of the committee who wish to speak raise your hand, please? Councillor White, Councillor Davis. Anybody else? Yes, comments? Yes? Councillor Tylan. Oh, no, sorry, I've got two other people ahead of you, so I'll come to you in a minute. Okay, so Councillor White.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And as I say, my background's in the voluntary sector, so I really do appreciate everything that you do and understand how very, very difficult it is to raise funds. I also recognise the difference you make, and it's immeasurable. However, there is a but coming. I'm slightly given it's public money, we've got to look after it so well and make sure it stretches so very, very far. It's sort of £500 per child, and I just wonder what else we could do with £500, how many children and young people we could help and support. So in principle, I think it's excellent. I know it makes a big difference, but I just have a slight concern about the amount of money. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Davies.
Thank you. I must admit, I would have come thinking the same as Councillor White until the presentation, which I found quite convincing. You've done your sums based on us giving you £3,000, and I'd be in favour of supporting you this time, but maybe next time we might have to rethink. But James, I think, has done his due diligence, so I'm quite trusting of James on this one and quite happy to go ahead and dip into council ward funding.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Tylan.
Just to say that I've known about the charity for many years, particularly when the former Sergeant Trevor Quay was running it many years ago, and I've seen the work you do, and this is a very good charity. I think we like to support, but again, I'm not sure about the funding available. But yeah, certainly the great charity, and well done the work you do. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, just to clarify the funding question, it's only because we're working with two pots of money that there's happens to be £2,000 left in the community grant pot, but there's still £17,000 in the council ward funding pot. So it's merely that was the reason. So it's not the amount of money that's available. It, I think, more goes to the point that Councillor White was making about the sort of the amount of money per head, and how that can be used. So I just wanted to clarify that point. Does any other councillors wish to make a comment, add to the debate? Councillor Sharper.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment. It was really echoing, really, and not wanting to repeat what my colleagues have said, but it was just to say I think more detail is probably required. I would be minded to approve this 3,000, but I would like to see more detail about the per child cost. What is actually a breakdown of what we're actually paying for, so we can actually see the benefit going directly to the children per child. which isn't really in here. So I'd like to get a better idea in the future, really on that basis. But I would say it'd be difficult for me not to approve this amount tonight, because we have drilled down quite hard and in a fair amount of detail. But as I say, I would like to see more detail in future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would come in at point 10 in the proposal. Lists a range of activities, about 8 or 10 different activities, and some of them, I think, probably do cost. There's a not insignificant cost attached to those the different activities, such as climbing or kayaking, hikes and forest walks. Obviously, there's a transportation element there to get to those places. And the long-term outreach and family facilitation that comes with it. But but I take your point about the level of detail. Are there any other comments? I think I'm hearing. Oh, Councillor Waldridge.
I mean, I know there's more to life than money, and I get that, but this is a charity, and it has to be robust. And I've looked at the accounts here now. The wages for 23 was 73,334, and I just find that the expense against income is the wrong way, and so therefore I struggle with it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor, for that contribution. Okay, well, I think on balance, I think I'm hearing that we want to go for the full £3,000 award. I think I know it's close, but I think just on balance, I think that's what we're leaning towards. So I'd move from the chair the following recommendation for a £2,000 neighbourhood community grant and an allocation of £1,000 of councillor ward funding for the application for man and boy as set out in paragraphs 5 to 13 of the report be approved. Would need a second on that. Okay, thank you, Councillor Davis. So that's been seconded. So can I take that as unanimous, or do we want to go to a vote on this?
It's not unanimous, no.
Okay, right. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm asking the question. So, right.
I'm going to look at the figure.
Sorry, would you like to carry on the debate? I mean, we can carry on the debate if you would like.
You said you're going to look at the figure, vary the possible figure involved in this.
Yes, yeah, indeed. And what I've done, as I said, there were two options on the table. One was to make an award of £3,000. The other one was to make an award of £2,000. And I listened to the debate, which was close, but I thought on balance, based on what I was hearing, that it was the £3,000 was the way that the committee was leaning. Of course, we can take a vote on this, and then which we will be doing shortly. Thank you. And we, at which point we can, if this one doesn't pass, we could then vote on £2,000. Okay, if that would be the preference. But that was, like I said, based on what I was hearing from the committee, I thought that was the balance of where we were going. So, is there any further debate, or should we go to the vote? Okay, let's go to the vote. Right. So, can I see all those in favour of the motion? Raise your hand, please.
Allow me a quick second.
Okay, and those against? Okay, and any abstentions? Okay.
Yes.
Right, okay, so thank you. So
It is carried out at 7 in favour, 0 against, and 4 abstain.
okay, thank you very much. So that is approved. Thank you very much for coming tonight and for the work that you do at Man Boy. Thank you. I'll now go back to James, who will introduce the second item. I believe
Thank
it's
you,
Kingston
Chair.
Tamil Heritage Group.
That's absolutely right. So moving to the smaller programme now, Council Award funding, the committee's been asked to consider 2 allocations for events. The first being the Kingston Tamil Heritage Group's Harvest Festival, which is taking place next January. And we've got Dr. Neva Nathan, who's very kindly agreed to come along and briefly talk about next year's Harvest Festival. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Steve. As I said previously, there's 3 minutes for you to introduce this item, and then we'll have questions from councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. We are planning to have a celebration of Tamil Heritage Month and the Harvest Festival in January next year, on the 25th of January next year. This is a showcase of the Tamil history, culture, and our traditions. This will bring our community together with other local communities. And we have done this this is going to be the 5th year. And we have had 4 very successful years, and I have seen some of the councillors here attending the events in the past as well. So we are seeking support from you to fund the celebrations, and we have produced a budget there, and we are seeking £1,100 from this group, and the rest of the funding will be, we have requested 2 other neighbourhood councils as well, and also from the organizations. 4 organizations are involved in this. One is Centre for Community Development, which is a registered charity based in Kingston. Other one is Tamil Information Centre, Kingston Tamil School, and Surrey Tamil School, again, although it's Surrey Tamil School based in New Malden. So these 4 organizations will share the rest of the expenses. And also we are seeking fund from a few well-wishers and sponsors. Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Do members have any questions for our applicant tonight? Any questions? No? Okay. Councillor Jürgen Nathan.
Anyway, thank you very much indeed. I know them as well. I'm part of the whole thing. I should have said to you that when you were asking any declaration of interest, even though I sit outside, but I do work along with everybody, not just Tamil School, but then I'm a Tamil as well. And certainly they are doing an excellent job for the last 5 years. And then, as you rightly said it, Centre for CCD, Centre for Community Development, and the Tamil Information Centre has been established, which I set it up along with her in 2005-06, and the school, right. 2 Tamil school.
I'm sorry, Councillor. Do you have?
And I hope that
do you have a question?
Keep up the good work. I will be supporting.
Okay, I think that was more of a comment, but
Thank you.
a well-meaning comment. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. No further questions? No questions? Okay, right. Well then, in which case, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will now have our little debate and then vote on this. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to go back to your seat. So I will now move from the chair of the following recommendation. The allocation of £1,100 of Councillor Ward funding to support the Kingston Tamil Heritage Group, as set out in paragraphs 14 to 17 of the report, be approved. And do I have a seconder? Yes. Councillor Yoganathan. Thank you very much. Thought you might want to second that. Right. Would any members of the committee wish to speak on this item? If so, raise your hand. Councillor Davis. Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
I'm sure we are going to support this, but I just want to say what a lovely occasion it is. It's vibrant, colourful, noisy, good fun, and I just think it's such a celebration of such a strong culture. And I didn't know that harvest was in January in Sri Lanka. And my in-laws were there in January this year and got rained out, and I was very concerned about the harvest, and I knew about that because of the festival.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Wooldridge.
Yeah, I went to last year's one in Richard Challoner. It was a fantastic event. It's a glorious culture. I tend to go where the food is, and they have some wonderful doses, so it's wonderful. Thank you.
Right, okay. Right. Any further comments? Shall we? Okay. Shall we take this as unanimous, or do we need a vote? Agreed? That sounds unanimous to me. Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Thea, for coming and speaking to us tonight, and congratulations. I hope it's a wonderful event again. So we now move on to our next item, which I believe is the Surbiton Club for the Blind. Yes,
thank you, Chair. So yes, you're right. The last application is also a council award funding request, this time for the Surbiton Club for the Blind, a local independent charity who have never applied for a grant from this committee before. And I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Mike Gibby. So it'd be very brief introduce their application to you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Mike Bibby. So, like I said, we've got 3 minutes for your introduction, and then we'll have questions from councillors. So, please.
Thank you. Good evening. Surbiton Club for the Blind meets at the Surbiton Hill Methodist Church every other Tuesday between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We have about just over 20 members, and our average attendance would be 17 or 18 every time. We have an equal number of volunteer helpers, drivers, caterers, and people who just come along to hold hands. The club has been in existence since 1949. It was founded by a Surbiton councillor who lost his sight doing active service during the Second World War. The meetings consist of, to start with, at 2 o'clock, entertainment, either in the form of musical entertainment, singers, or a speaker. For instance, we met today, and our speaker was a local historian, Julian McCarthy, who came to talk on King Athelstan. We then follow that by a good old-fashioned tea, sandwiches, cakes, almost as much as you can consume, and then finish by perhaps a general chat, maybe some silly jokes told to further entertain people, or a short quiz. And then the drivers, who are all volunteers, will take their people home. Part of the group's activities are events during the course of the year when we go outside the Surbiton Hill Methodist Church. And one of the main events is the Christmas lunch, which we are having this year, and it has been for the last few years, at the Old Cranleon Sports Club on the Portsmouth Road. We generally would expect about 40 people, consisting both of members and volunteer helpers. And again, at that event, we would have an entertainer who would come as our guest and provide entertainment. This year it's going to be a lady who plays the accordion and her husband who plays the drums for her. Other events during the course of the year are a river trip, which has been in the past always funded by the Kingston Nursing Association.
30 seconds.
That we go from Walton up or down river, consisting of about 4 hours in the middle of the summer. Other events are we go to Pembroke Lodge. We take them to Pembroke Lodge in May for a tea, and are very, very kind to us. They don't charge us their full rates. They treat us as a charity as we are. We have the Belvedere room, and they provide a tea for us. And again, all our members are got there by volunteer drivers.
Time is up.
And sorry, yes.
Oh, sorry. If you just kind of wrap it up, that would be.
Well, that's really it. 4 or 5 events outside outside the church, and the 2 main events are the Christmas lunch and the river trip.
Brilliant.
And our application is to help us. The cost of the meal last year was just under £1,100. We anticipate that we haven't got a full price yet, but we anticipate it will be about 12.
Right. Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much. Do members have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Well, hold the comments. Councillor White.
Thank you very much. I will come back with a comment in a moment, but just if we weren't to approve the funding tonight, do you have a plan B? Is there somewhere else?
Yes, I think we have funds which we could use. We would dip into our funds, but it would be of great help if we could have this today.
Okay. Councillor Conn.
Thank you for your introduction. So I just wanted to find out how many people come to this lunch and when does it take place?
The lunch it'll be on the 2nd of December at the Old Cranleons. We anticipate around about 40, which would be an equal number of between members and helpers.
So, got a question for me. So I take it then that this is partly an opportunity to thank your helpers for the work that for all of their contribution that they
yes,
make.
we do. We give it to the helpers for free.
Right.
I should have mentioned that we charge. Sorry, on our normal meetings we charge £5 for the attendance for the teas, and we are charging the members. We subsidise it, and we're charging the members £15.
Oh, I see. For the lunch.
For the lunch, yes.
Oh, right.
The club will charge us well over £20, we think.
Okay, great. And what's on the menu?
Surprisingly, turkey and Christmas pudding, but we do have a vegetarian option. And again, there's an offer something like an apple pie and fruit salad and mince pies, tea and coffee and mince pies to follow.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, are there any further questions? Okay, well we'll have our debate now. So if you'd like to return to your seat, and I will move from the chair the following recommendation: the allocation of £1,200 of council award funding to support the Surbiton Club for the Blind, as set out in paragraphs 18 to 20 of the report, be approved. Do I have a seconder for that? Oh, right. Councillor Wooldridge, thank you very much. So would members of the committee who wish to speak please raise a hand? Okay. Okay. Councillor Jürgen Nathan, please.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I have to say that I've been part of that organization. It is in Ewell Road. Actually, it comes into your ward, said. It's at St. Matthew's Church, and I known them for the last 24 years, and I do work along with them. They do an excellent job for people with blind and other issues. And as Mike was talking about, he himself lives in Borough, and it's not far away from me. And my support and encouragement for elderly people like me is a great achievement. And I'm always there for them. Thank you. Give them a support.
Right, okay. That sounds like a vote of confidence. Councillor Davies.
I just want to say that I think this is a really, really worthwhile cause and we should definitely support it. I think being blind, having been blind for about 3 days myself once, it was very frightening. And I think anything we can do to support our community is a very good idea.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thailand.
Thank you, Chair. As my colleague said, it's a great cause and it's a well-run charity. I have been to a few of the events. I've been to the AGM, and I think I've been to a function that we had at Richmond Park. So it's brilliant. Yeah, good job, and please keep it going. Well-deserved charity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further comments? Oh, right. Councillor Sharper.
Just echoing my colleagues' comments that you don't realise how much you rely on your sight until you actually lose it or you struggle with sight loss. And I think it can feel rather isolating, and I think this is something which I absolutely support, that feeling that someone has something to look forward to. And as I say, I think it's so important to feel that you're part of a community and that you've got the help and support around you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right. Okay. So are there any further comments? No further comments. Should we go to... Okay. Do we need to go to a vote, or can I take this as unanimously approved? Agreed? Agreed. Okay. That sounds unanimous to me. Okay. So thank you very much. I think it's, as we heard, we're very happy to support this, and I think it's nice to be able to do something for your volunteers as well, who give so much throughout the year to the charity as well. So thank you very much for coming along, and yeah, congratulations. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, that was the last of our grant applications, and now we move on to item 7, which is planning applications. Before we move to the planning application, I just need to announce some housekeeping arrangements. Regarding public participation on the application this evening, there's a registration scheme for residents and applicants wishing to participate in the planning applications that are considered by the committee. Members of the public who have registered to speak will be invited to come forward to the table in front of the public gallery at the appropriate point. Second, members of the public are reminded that the planning application process is constrained by the need to have regard to current planning policy at national, regional, and local levels, as well as all other material planning considerations, including case law precedent. The decision-making process is often described as a quasi-judicial because local planning authorities have to act reasonably within the bounds of planning law and the above considerations, and are not free to determine planning applications simply because of the weight of public opinion. For the purpose of the debate, the officer recommendation will be moved prior to consideration of the matter by members. This does not indicate that members are predisposed to a decision one way or the other. So, as mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, the planning application relating to Willow Grange was withdrawn from the agenda as no registered objector was registered a speaking slot by the deadline. So we move to planning application 210390, land to the rear of 21 to 23 The Ridge.
Sorry, Chair. I think we need to wait until Councillor Manders and Khan to come back. Yeah, okay. Because once we...
Okay, right. Okay, I will carry on with the housekeeping and then pause before until Councillor Manders returns. I see Councillor Khan has just come back in. Okay, right. Thank you. Was it just to clarify one of our... Oh, sorry, can I have everybody's attention, please? Right. So just to clarify, one of our councillors has had to step out, but we will proceed with the planning application. So we now turn to this planning application 21 to 23 The Ridge, Surbiton. Members of the committee and meeting participants may refer to Appendix B of the agenda pack from page B58. In addition, there's some late material that was published in advance of the meeting today regarding the final list of conditions. They've been placed on members' desks. Do members need time to read the late materials first? No? I'm hearing no's. No, yes. Okay. So we will... so now we go to declarations in accordance with the planning protocol. Do members have any other declarations on this application in accordance with the planning protocol? Any? Right. So are there any further declarations from members? So we can then, I see Councillor Manders has come back. So we can, we'll now proceed to the application. So the planning application involves the demolition of an existing outbuilding and attached garage block, an erection and the building of one. I'm sorry, could I ask people in the audience to, yeah, thank you. So, and the building of a part single-story, part two-story detached four-bedroom self-build dwelling, including associated upgrades to the accessway, car parking, and hard and soft landscaping works. And so I'd like to invite Lucy Bennett, Principal Planner, for a presentation to introduce the item to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, you just read out the description of development, so I don't think I need to go through that again, but the application reference number is 25/01390/full. And we have before us an aerial view of the site. You can see that it's a backland development located behind the dwellings at number 21 to 23, The Ridge.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lucy, could you move the microphone slightly closer to you? Just
Is that better?
yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Thank you very much.
Key policy constraints affecting the site is it has a transport accessibility level of 1B, which is poor. It's in flood zone 1 and a critical drainage area. This is the site location plan and photographs of the existing site conditions. The proposal, yep, so it's for the demolition of an existing outbuilding, attached garage block, erection of 1 part single story, part 2 story detached 4-bedroom self-built dwelling, including associated works. This is the existing block plan, so it currently contains an outbuilding and garages on the site. Existing site plan, existing ground floor plans, existing roof plans. The proposed site layout. There's actually 2 images here, so it's been split. The image on the right is the proposed driveway upgrades, keeping in mind that that accessway is already there. Then the proposed ground floor plan, proposed first floor plan, identifying the 4 bedrooms, proposed roof plan, existing north and east elevations, existing south and west elevations, proposed north elevation, proposed east elevation, proposed south elevation, proposed west elevation, proposed sections, existing and proposed street scene elevation. You can see that there's no change. Key considerations for the application was principle of development, standard of accommodation, character and design, impact on residential amenity, highway and transportation matters, biodiversity, trees and landscaping, flood risk and drainage and fire safety. Late material was provided, which is a list of final conditions. And the recommendation is to agree to approve the application subject to conditions and to delegate authority to the Director of Planning and Regeneration to finalise the recommended conditions as set out in this report, including such amendments, additions or deletions as the Director of Planning and Regeneration, in consultation with the Chair of Surbiton Neighbourhood Committee, considers reasonably necessary. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucy, for that introduction. So can I invite the 2 registered objectors, Mr. Terence Owens and Mrs. Susan Kelly, who have been formally notified of the application through a letter of notification and have replied to the consultation, to come forward to the public speaking desk.
It's very unfortunate. I came in and saw Herman and told him that I wanted to speak as a registered objector, and I've only just been given this. I wasn't aware of any late conditions or any late paperwork, nor was Susan.
We haven't been notified.
We were here at just gone 7 o'clock, and we haven't just been handed this now.
Chair, may I?
Yes.
Chair, the governance position is to publish any late material provided to me by officers on the council website, and I have duly done so. In fact, it is not a requirement for me to send it to either the applicant or any of the registered objectors. You are supposed to refer to the council website for any late material that could happen in any meetings of the council.
So you're saying that at the moment, before we got on the bus to get here, we should have gone onto the website to check you hadn't changed the application or the report. Right. That's outrageous.
Can I just make a point there?
Yes, okay. Thank you, Lucy. I think some clarification on the final conditions would be helpful.
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify that there has not been any amendments to the draft conditions included in the published report, except for 2 additional conditions.
Well, we haven't had a chance, there's 8 pages here, we haven't had a chance to read it, to check one against the others, we don't know.
Right, okay.
Anyway.
I think the
Should we crack on?
Okay, so yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
And
we're sharing the 5 minutes between the 2 of us.
okay, yeah, that's fine. Herman will let you know when there is 1 minute left. Thank you very much.
Okay. The application is for inappropriate backland development out of keeping with the local area. Paragraph 13.4 of the officer's report describes Berrylands as, quote, an outer suburban area of established high-quality plots with a leafy field. It recognises rear gardens are long and large. They make the housing low density, provides the green background and feeling of space to Surbiton. In paragraph 13.3 of the report, they quote policy, new residential development on garden land, which is out of character with the existing form of development, will be resisted. The application site is garden land, having been occupied for many years as part of the back garden of 21 The Ridge, and contains a greenhouse, vegetable garden, flower garden, and a large magnificent magnolia tree, all of which have been removed by the applicant. The proposal will lead to a large part of the plot being covered by a bulky new building and hard landscaping, destroying the previous green and leafy environment. There will be an overbearing 2-storey property just behind our back fence at 19 The Ridge. See the proposed north elevation drawing on page A63 of your report, and in particular the site plan at A61. The proposal will adversely affect the density of housing, destroy the wide separation between the houses in the Ridge and Regent Road, the green nature of the separating land, and the quietness of the area. There would be overlooking and loss of privacy for neighbouring properties. We also believe that a 20% plot ratio referred to in paragraph 13.7 of the report could only have been calculated by taking into account the area of a long access drive rather than just taking the size of the actual building plot, which would result in a higher plot ratio. The architectural design of the house is entirely out of character with the 1920s style of the area. We disagree profoundly with paragraph 310 of the officer's report, which suggests that details such as a standing seam metal roof would be compatible with local architecture. There will be a loss of natural light for neighbouring properties. Is only 2 hours of direct morning sunlight really acceptable, which paragraph 14.3 of the report suggests it would be. There will be an increase in activity, and especially regarding traffic movements and parking. There is also complete non-compliance with London Fire Brigade access requirements and London Fire Brigade Fire Guidance Safety GN 29 access for firefighters. Allowing this application would damage the very things that make Berrylands special and could be used as a precedent to allow other similar development in the future.
This application should be refused because it is incapable of lawful implementation. The access drive is shared with the 3 surrounding houses of 29 Regent Road, 21 and 23 The Ridge, and the third-party owned garage. They have established rights of access registered on title. The proposed development would materially interfere with that right both during construction and thereafter by increasing vehicle movements, congestion and obstruction along the single-track access on other parts of the site. In particular, the 2 parking spaces obstruct the gates to 29 Regent Road and 23 The Ridge. The resident of 29 Regent Road has commented that the proposed parking space would make it difficult for him to use the gate as he has done previously. The siting of the refuse presentation point in the shared drive is an obstacle that is not permitted in such circumstances. In addition, it would require any vehicle to encroach into the proposed segregated pedestrian section of the drive. The current and likely future volume of traffic has been seriously misrepresented. At present, the most frequent use of the single-track access drive is by the applicant himself, who reverses his trade vehicle down the track to access building materials associated with his business stored in and around the garages. There are occasional other vehicle movements. Going forward, a 4-bedroom house with 2 side parking spaces is bound to generate more traffic, not only from the 2 vehicles in the nominated spaces, but from any other family vehicles as well as visitors' vehicles and postal and other deliveries. The safety aspects of such use of a single track have been downplayed in the supporting documents, including the lack of passing place, which is accepted design guidance for shared drives of more than 18 metres. The shared drive in this case is 37 metres. There is also a failure to provide for visibility displays at the junction of the drive with the ridge. Without these features, the proposal does not support safe vehicle and pedestrian movement. For these reasons and those detailed by my neighbour, the application should be rejected.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You return to your seats. Thank you very much. Can I invite the two registered agents of the applicant, Mr. Michael Smith and Mr. Ian Crane, to come forward to the public speaking desk? You have up to 5 minutes to address the committee. Herman will let you know when there's 1 minute remaining and when your time is up.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Councillors. My name is Michael Smith and this is Ian Crane from Fletcher Crane Architects, and we're here this evening representing the applicant. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this proposal for a new family home for long-term residents of the borough. Fletcher Crane Architects are an established local award-winning practice, and we've delivered several RBK award-winning homes in the borough. That local experience has allowed us to approach this project with sensitivity and a true understanding of the area. This evening, I'll briefly outline the site context, design approach, and how the application places planning policy compliance at the centre of the proposal. I'll then address the main themes of the neighbour objections and describe how the proposal overcomes these through planning policy compliance. The application site is an underutilised plot to the south side of the ridge containing 2 existing garage blocks, one of which is to be demolished as part of the proposals. The surrounding neighbourhood is characterised by large detached and semi-detached homes, many of which have been extended into the roof, creating an effective 3-storey volume, significantly bigger than the proposal. The plot is well screened by mature planted boundaries, and the proposed dwelling would be obstructed from the street. Within the area, there are multiple precedents for new dwellings on garden and backland sites, including 6 separate permissions, totaling 12 dwellings in various locations, such as the Avenue, within the Christchurch Conservation Area, the Ridings, Starling Mews, and Lovelace Gardens. The officer report confirms the application site suitable for residential development under policy H2, supporting the principle of a new dwelling. The design of the proposed home has been guided by context, quality, and planning policy compliance. As an example, the building footprint has been carefully positioned to minimise the impact on adjacent trees and maximise the separation distances to neighbouring properties. The house sits centrally within the plot, within generous garden space exceeding council amenity standards. Speak up. Apologies. All separation distances to neighbouring buildings are over 21 metres, exceeding policy requirements, and as confirmed in the officer's report, mitigate any issues of overlooking or overbearing impact. The proposed plot ratio is also commensurate with the adjacent dwellings and context. The proposed height and scale are deliberately modest, with ridge and eave height significantly lower than the neighbouring homes. The roof form is split into 2 smaller volumes to further reduce mass, keeping the ridge and eaves purposefully low, ensuring the proposal remains subservient to the neighbouring context. Sustainability is integral to the proposal. The scheme includes solar PVs, an air source heat pump, EV charging, green roofs, and permeable surfaces, all supported by officers as positive environmental measures. Neighbour concerns focus on 4 key areas. We address each of these in turn as follows. 1. Scale and height. As mentioned, the proposal exceeds the 21-metre separation distance requirement, limits height and reduces volume, and officers confirm no harmful impact to neighbours. 2. Design and character. Care has been taken to ensure materials and character take cues from both historic and contemporary local buildings. Officers note the design and materials are high quality and policy compliant. 3. Access and parking. The Highways Officer confirmed the applicant's transport and vehicle tracking are satisfactory and raised no objections. 4. Trees and ecology. The footprint has been sensitively planned to avoid root protection zones. Arboricultural and ecology reports were provided, and officers confirmed biodiversity will be protected, which officers note carries positive weight in favour of the application. These 4 responses demonstrate concerns have been addressed through careful design development, resulting in a policy-compliant family home which is respectful to its context. In summary, this proposal has been developed to be compliant with local and national policy. It delivers a high-quality family home that will support the borough's housing targets and will contribute positively to the local character. We'd like to close by saying the officer's report highlights no policy conflicts, and all assessment are either neutral or positive, and the application is recommended for approval. We therefore respectfully ask councillors to support the officer's recommendation and grant approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Spot on 5 minutes. Could you, thank you for that. Could you return to your seats?
Thank you.
Thank you. So do any members of the committee have questions of clarification for the objectors? So the first speakers we heard from. And members, please raise your hands if you have any questions. I would like to have an indication of how many questions we're going to have from the beginning, just so that to give the objectors a fair chance to get through all of the questions. They know how many questions there might be. So do we have any questions for the objectors based on their presentation here tonight, or any other issues you may be aware of? So I've got Councillor Wooldridge. Okay. Okay. Do we have any more? Okay. So we have two questioners. If you come to the table, please. Thank you. So again, we have 5 minutes for these questions, no more. So that includes the amount of time that it takes councillors to ask the question. So Herman will let you know when there's 1 minute remaining. So
it includes the replies as well.
It includes the replies as well, of course. Right. So Councillor Wooldridge to begin with, and then followed by Councillor Shopper.
How long do I have?
Well, just try and ask. Why don't you ask a couple of questions, and then we'll give Councillor Shopper a chance to ask a couple, and then we'll come back to you, and we'll maybe go that way. Okay.
Right, thank you. You referred, I know this site really well. In fact, I just know it because I live around the corner, and I walked it again this morning, so I'm very much aware of that site. And I knew the chap who had owned that land as well in my youth, and I know it well. You've referred to this as an overdevelopment. Can you clarify what specific aspect you feel most harms the local character?
It's the lack of separation between Regent Road and the Ridge. Lots of green open space there, instead of which you have a 2-storey building and a lot of hard landscaping, and also the access road will be hard landscaped as well. So a lot of the green elements will vanish there. You're intensifying the use of the site and the traffic use in particular. At the moment, the only traffic use there really is the applicant's van reversing down there to and from his materials. Okay.
Do you believe any form of single dwelling on this plot would be acceptable or could be acceptable to you?
We are against the principle of it, but if, in your wisdom, you decide the principle against us, we would say that a single-storey bungalow one with a removal of permitted development rights would be more acceptable than a bulky 2-storey building bang on our back boundary.
Having gone round the site, I'm assuming some of those garages are yours.
No.
Then neither of them are yours.
One of them is mine.
Sorry.
Okay. So how often would you say, having walked round it, how often are these existing garages used at present?
They're mostly used by the applicant.
So there's no garages used by anyone else?
I use my garage, yes.
Is there anyone else?
The applicant owns...
Apart from the applicant and yourself, is there anyone else?
No, because he owns all the other garages.
He owns all the other garages. Okay. Fine.
Okay. Oh, Councillor, we've 2 minutes have elapsed. Can I hand over to Councillor Shopper?
Of course you can.
And then come back to you if there's some time remaining. So, which hopefully there will be. Councillor Shopper.
Thank you, Chair. You may have actually answered the question, Councillor Waldridge's question about vehicle movements. I was just interested to know, could you explain in more detail, you had an objection about the usage of the plot being increasing by vehicle movements. We've got a single dwelling rather than flats here. So what was your primary concern about number of vehicles, increase in usage in terms of number of vehicles?
Because the supporting documents, the applicant's supporting documents, make the claim that there will be less traffic going forward than there is now, which is a nonsense, because at the moment, the traffic is from the applicant's trade vehicle and occasional other vehicles. But going forward, there are 2 assigned parking spaces, and we don't know if that household will have other vehicles. They will certainly have visitors and deliveries, postal deliveries and other deliveries, and therefore there will be a significant increase in the traffic. And also the safety measures have been downplayed. The specialist report says that the only people using that lane will be the 2 vehicles of the applicant and me, and that we will know to look out for each other and what we have to do, because they are saying that although it's current guidance to have a passing space when any drive is longer than 18 metres, and this is 37 metres, it may not be needed in this case. But there will be considerable more traffic with a large family home from their own vehicles and from visitors and deliveries.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Councillor Waldridge. Did you have any follow-ups?
So this is an opportunity really for me to understand what specific harm do you believe this development would cause to your property or the area that could not be prevented through planning conditions?
Well, you can't alleviate something through planning condition. If you look at the northern elevation, if you could flash that up, Lucy, please, could you? I think it was an A63 or something. That one, that one there. No, back one. That one. That is the view from our back garden, those 2 bulky ends. You can't alleviate any of that by condition. It's nonsense. You know, it actually destroys the character.
Right.
Thank you for that. Yes, it's extremely high.
Sorry. I'm sorry. The time we've come to the end of the 5 minutes. So thank you very much for answering the questions, and we'll now move on to the next section. Do any members of the committee have questions or clarification for the applicant's agents? And again, if I can ask people to raise their hands so we have an idea of how we can pace this. Any questions for the applicant's agents? You do? Okay. Now so I have Councillor Sharper. Anybody else?
Councillor Woodridge as well.
Okay, right. Okay, anybody else? Just so we know. If you would like to come to the table, we'll start the questions in just in a moment. Okay, we have the 2. We have 2 then. Again, there's 5 minutes questions and answers, and Herman will let you know when there's 1 minute remaining. So start with Councillor Shopper.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Just got a query about where the bin refuse collection distance is. 7.5 metres from the end of the drive. I just wondered how you'd envisage that working on a daily basis if that is that is the collection distance. Could you just clarify that is that where the bins are to be left? They're not going to be there permanently, is the first question. And the second one is, how did you, what were your calculations to width once there is a collection? Because presumably cars would have to go past that point in and out, despite having a collection day. So I was just interested to know how you had managed to mitigate the decrease in width, where the bin collection distance, where they're actually positioned. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Councillor. Let me clarify. The 7.5 metres that you refer to is the presentation point for bins. So the day-to-day storage for the bins is within the site, currently the parking area just inside the end of the access road on the left-hand side there. That would be the day-to-day position for the bins, and then on presentation, or on bin collection day, the presentation point would be 7.5 metres from the edge of the access road where it joins the pavement. That's in accordance with the design manual for streets. And to address your second point, just to close out on that first point, that is essentially a policy compliant solution in terms of bin location and drag distance and presentation point and distance for operatives to collect the bins as well. The second part of your question in relation to cars passing the bins, so there would be enough room for a car to get past the bins on presentation point morning, so that wouldn't be all the time, just to be absolutely clear on that. So this would be a very isolated incident in relation to bin collection days. There would be enough room for a car still to get by on those rare events, if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. Can I go to? We're running out of time because I need to allow Councillor Waldridge to come in. Councillor Waldridge, did you have a?
Yeah, I've actually got about 12 questions. Okay, but and that's my bridge version. This is quite a significant piece of planning, so I'm going to go through it if you don't mind.
Well, okay, within the 5-minute time limit, yes.
Okay, well, I'll ask the questions rapidly in that case. You described this as a self-build project. Can you confirm who will actually occupy the dwelling and for how long, and how the council can be assured this isn't a speculative development under a self-build label? And forgive me for saying this, because you're both a couple of professional gentlemen. If this is a genuinely self-build, why was professional agent or architect engaged rather than the applicant leading the process personally?
Yes. Thank you, Councillor. That's a good question.
And the third one is, with this question, would you accept a condition requiring occupation by the self-builder for a minimum period of, say, 3 years before any sale or letting?
I'll just take each of those points in turn. I think, as we said at the start of the presentation, we've done numerous applications like this in the borough. And as the applicants come to us, it's no different from the other ones that we've done in the borough, really. So we take all our clients at face value. Okay. There's a seal process in place which looks to applicants to stay in properties for up to 3 years after completion. And I think that might cover the point that you raised about people staying in the property.
Does the applicant live in the borough?
Yes, they do. They live in Kingston.
Good. Okay, thank you. Do you know what? I've got so many questions, but I'm not going to have sufficient time, which is, frankly, not good on my side. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll follow up real quickly with it. I was interested in the question about why the applicant themselves weren't here tonight to present this, if it's a self-build project.
They are here. They're just sitting behind us this evening, listening intently, as we're the architects, as we've done many times at Kingston committees. We answer the questions in case anything technical comes up.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much. Time is up, so I have to stick very closely to time restrictions. If you'd like to return to your seat, please, we will proceed with the rest of the process that we have to go through. Right. Okay, so we now turn back to our planning officer, Lucy Bennett, who will now present the material planning considerations and address, where necessary, any issues that were raised during the public speaking. So there's no questions of the officer at this point, but there will be a chance later, members. So Lucy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, there are a number of things I want to come back on to clarify. So firstly, reference was made to paragraph 13.3 of the Officer Report in regard to Policy Guidance 8 in Council's Residential Design Guide, which states new residential development on garden land, which is out of character with the existing form of development and urban grain, will be resisted. So there is many points within our officer report that clarifies that we do not consider the proposed development to be out of keeping with the urban grain, given that it is quite a large plot, it's 950 square metres, and the design demonstrates compliance with the 21-metre separation distance to nearby properties. So there's definitely sufficient space being maintained around the property. And also, just a reminder that it is part single, part two-storey building, and that the surrounding development is a two-storey development, but does have many instances of roof extensions, which make them appear as more 3 stories from the rear. I also like to clarify that the site is not within a conservation area and is not within a local area of significant character. There was a point about impact or reduction in daylight sunlight on neighbouring properties, and I'd just like to clarify that the applicant has considered this and the impact would be within the acceptability of BRE guidelines. On the fire safety point, it is acknowledged that compliance with the maximum access distance for a pumping appliance in terms of fire safety cannot be demonstrated. However, the dwelling would be fitted with fire suppression system and or horizontal dry riser in accordance with the building regulations approved document, so compliance with the fire safety has been demonstrated. There is no change to the existing crossover, therefore the need for visibility displays and compliance with the crossover policy does not need to be demonstrated because there's no change to the existing crossover. There is currently 6 garages on site, so if all garages were being used by cars, that would be 6 cars. There is actually a reduction down to 2 on-site car parking spaces and retention of the existing garage. The provision of 2 car parking spaces is within the parameters of Policy T.6 of the London Plan 2021, and our council's highways engineer has raised no objection to this arrangement. The permitted development rights have been removed, and that is included in the final conditions package within the late material. So that includes extensions and new windows on the first floor of any elevation. And in terms of self-build, the self-build has been included in the description of development, so therefore the applicant is tied into that. The applicant is also registered in the self-build custom build register. And also there is a condition secured for the requirement for it to be self-build as well. So I think that responds to all the points of clarification that I wanted to make. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Lucy. Right, so I'll now move the recommendations as set out on the late material, which is the application to be approved subject to conditions. So do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hurlinger? Thank you. Right. So I'll now open the matter for debate. Can members raise your hand if you have any questions for the officer, please? Let's start with questions, please. Councillor Shopper. Bear with me a second. Anybody else at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Oh, okay. Right, okay. Right. Any other questions? Okay. I may have one or two questions myself. Put myself on the list. Okay. So, Councillor Shopper, questions for the officer, please.
Thank you, Lucy. Just a quick question about the vehicle widths and the overall width of the driveway. I just need to be clear in my head. So on the refuse collection distance, on those days where you've got the 4 refuse bins allocated there, 7.5 metres in, is there an assumption that on those days where they're left there is no room for pedestrian access as well as cars, because you'd have to have there's no potential safety issue with clearly pedestrian access and vehicle access at the same time? So you'd make an assumption within the guidelines. Could you just explain a bit more how that works so I'm clear in my mind? You've got refuse collection point, but you've also got on the plan, we've got pedestrian and vehicle widths included. So obviously on refuse collection days that wouldn't apply, because you obviously wouldn't have enough space for both vehicle and pedestrian access at the same time. I'm wondering how that would work. Could you explain that a bit more? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I can clarify that the bins will only be located there on collection day. So to be crystal clear, the pedestrian accessway will be temporarily impeded if a vehicle was to go up the driveway with the bins being located there on collection day. However, that would be a very small amount of time that would occur, and only on collection day, which is one day of the week. The site is obviously constrained in terms of this narrow accessway, so the design presents a situation that's policy compliant with the Manual for Streets guidance, which requires the refuse bin storage area to be within 10 metres for waste contractor collection.
Okay. That's okay. Right. Councillor Waldridge.
I thought I was going to be given a bit more time, but I haven't. So, can you explain to me precisely what material planning benefit justifies setting aside the council's usual resistance to back garden developments in this particular case?
So council's resistance to backland development would only be in situations where there's unacceptable impacts on neighbours, or perhaps unacceptable impacts on or loss of vegetation and biodiversity. So in terms of the impacts on neighbours, we have assessed that, and the policy guidance states that a 21-metre separation distance between facing windows is required, and in this circumstance the new dwelling has been designed to comply with that. And if we just flip back to the proposed elevations, the actual orientation of the dwelling does reduce the number of first floor windows to the east and west, the north and south, to try and reduce overlooking impacts on neighbours and the loss of privacy. And then in terms of overbearing enclosure, there is still remains to be compliance with the BRE guidelines in terms of access to daylight sunlight. And other matters such as loss of biodiversity, we have secured a landscaping condition There's also only the removal of one poor quality category C tree, which will be replaced with 2 high quality trees in compliance with Council's 2-for-1 ratio tree replacement policy.
Okay, thank you for that. Would this proposal still be acceptable if it wasn't branded a self-build?
Yes, it does demonstrate policy compliance without the need to rely on the self-build registration.
Yeah, I could sort of go on this, and you're very good, but I mean, I think the people here have already explained, you know, I know the area really well, and that part is actually really high up in Berrylands. It's possibly one of the highest, if not the highest section in Berrylands, and this is not appropriate in my humble view.
Right, sorry, it was, okay. And was there a question in that, or no? No, that's fine, we'll leave that. Okay, so I had a couple of, well, they might seem a little nitpicky, but I'm kind of curious. On 14.5, talking about the air source heat pump, a condition would be secured to ensure that the plant equipment is at least 5 decibels lower than the existing background noise, and I just wondered how background noise is benchmarked.
Yeah, so that's relevant legislation under noise and disturbance. So background noise is literally taken from the existing circumstance. So the air source heat pump would need to be within an enclosure to reduce noise emissions.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. What I mean is how do you benchmark that? Do you take a measurement, a level at a particular time, or an average over time, or nighttime, daytime? Like I said, it's a little nitpicky, but I'm just conscious of the potential noise that might be coming from this.
Usually it's monitored by taking the final noise emissions, and then if that is over the background noise, then it wouldn't, it's taken from the final emission and then taken from the background noise. So it would be a requirement to be 5 decibels below the background noise levels. I get your point about how do you actually measure the existing noise levels, but it is, exactly.
Okay, that's fine. I accept it's a slightly nitpicky question. Probably less nitpicky. So we have a disagreement between the applicant and the objectors about whether this proposed development is in character or out of character with the surrounding area. How does the planning team make the judgment about whether something is in character or out of character with the area? I'm thinking in particular the roof treatment, which is I believe is rolled metal. Is that correct? And the elevations that will be facing those the houses to the north and the south, which are basically essentially kind of blank brick walls with a couple of very narrow windows, frosted windows put in them. Just wondering how you make that assessment, how you make that judgment.
So the impact of the dwelling on the character and appearance of the area is taken from a few different things. It includes scale, siting, plot ratio, and as well as you mentioned, materials. So in terms of the height, it's commensurate with the surrounding development, which are 2 stories. The plot ratio is compatible with the existing plot ratio, albeit it doesn't have as deeper rear gardens as the surrounding development. It definitely still meets the policy requirements for outdoor amenity space. The siding, as I mentioned before, maintains the 21 metre separation distance from neighbouring properties. The materials, the dwelling does take a contemporary approach on a traditional character. However, the materials that are proposed are still high quality. They are brick, and the windows, yes, some are slimline, but I wouldn't say they were necessarily out of keeping, especially keeping in mind this is backland development and won't actually be visible from the public realm. So a combination of these things means that, yeah, we find it acceptable.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Are there any further questions for the officer or officer here today? No? Okay. So I'll move on to comments from members. Do we have any comments? This is where you can, yes, I've got Councillor Manders. Yeah, okay. Councillor Manders.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, I think these comments have to be taken in the context that that residents have come here tonight and they're obviously very worried about this development at the back of their houses, and that's entirely understandable. Okay. Is that better? Thank you. Well, just to repeat, my comments are in the context that obviously I've noted that local residents have come here because they're worried about the possible effects on their amenity by having a housing development on this site where formerly there were garages. Two things. There's just really this question about the heat pump noise. Heat pumps, air source heat pumps we're talking about, which have a fan, basically, so the air is passed through the unit to provide basically the source of heat, which is then transmitted into the house for space heating and for hot water. Under permitted development rules, generally the guidance is used from the microgeneration certification scheme, and that's just done on 42 decibels for the actual sound of the fan. So obviously Kingston has a requirement. There's also a measurement of background noise as well. I don't know entirely how that's done, and whether it's done at different times of the day, or whether it's averaged, or whether it's done at a particular peak time, or whatever. But I cannot see why we could turn it down, on that particular issue. I think issues about noise and so on would have to be fixed afterwards, effectively, if it was an issue. And it shouldn't be now, looking at the distance of this property from its boundary, and also for the modern heat pumps are remarkably quiet. And if there is still an issue, then there's always, you can put it in an enclosure so any noise is directed upwards. So I'm just saying this just really to discount that if it was thought that was a reason necessarily to turn this down. I want to come on to really the other issue about effectively the prejudice in the planning system that we have. So we're sitting here tonight in a quasi-judicial function, and we have to take notice as councillors of all the evidence that's been presented to us by both the residents and by the applicant, but particularly by the officers who are advising us to permit this development. And we have to take that very, very seriously if we decide not to go with the planning officer's recommendation, which I think is, I can entirely understand the various steps that they've set out, why they've come to that conclusion. Then I would have thought that we would get an appeal by the developer of this site. And how would we deal, or how would we fare under that? Well, part of the problem we have really is the way that the government, not only this government, but also the previous government, is centralising planning decisions. And there is increasingly a prejudice, effectively, to pass things on appeal. We're in a particularly difficult situation as a local authority because we, like all local planning authorities, have been set a target for housing being built in our area, and that also includes a target effectively for the permissions that we give. Now, the view that is put by people in the house building industry is that things aren't being built because councils aren't giving permission. That is untrue. The reality is that there's 1.5 million planning permissions out there which developers aren't building at the moment. But anyway, governments have bought this story, and so they are now very much enforcing these targets on local authorities. And if this went to appeal, if we turned it down tonight and it went to appeal, then almost certainly the inspector would look at our record against the housing targets which we've been set, which is nearly 1,000 a year, and they will say, well, you're not fulfilling that. Of course, one reason why we're not fulfilling that is because developers aren't putting forward enough applications for planning permission. But that's not counted, it's just the numbers which the government are interested in. So what I'm saying on the evidence that we've seen tonight and the lack of grounds that we have as a committee to turn this down, if we did turn it down, it would be very difficult to defend it at appeal, and almost certainly I would think in my judgment, and it's purely my opinion, is that almost certainly it would be approved at appeal. So I think our job tonight really is to try and ameliorate any type of issues or whatever that we possibly can to try and make this development as acceptable as possible. But I do fully understand the objections of the residents to this, and they do have my sympathies for this. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Davies?
Come to me last.
Okay. Councillor Shopper? Oh. Oh, okay. Well, I believe you're the last two on the list. Right, yeah, Councillor Shopper.
So thank you. If you can just bear with me, because I've been frantically trying to find in the document the paragraph that refers to the metal window frames being in keeping with the design of the build. So my first comment is it would be great if Lucy, you might be able to direct me to that paragraph, whether that's by condition. So are we on? We are, just to clarify, Chair, we are on comments at this stage, aren't we?
Yeah, if you wanted to, I mean, to be honest, if you want to ask a question of the officer, you know, try and keep it.
Yeah, it's a comment.
It's a comment
stroke question,
yeah,
so I'll
okay.
try and be succinct.
I'll
so
allow.
that's why I asked first about the metal framing of the window frames, because I did read it in there and I just can't seem to find it when I want to find it in the document. And the reason why I am wrestling with this one is that two things. I'm following on really from Councillor Mander's comments about we have to be absolutely crystal clear if we have objection why for it to stack up on appeal. I am really wrestling with this because having gone through a lot in detail tonight and prior to tonight, reading through, I have a personal view that I personally think this building is terribly ugly, from my own personal preference, but from a design point of view, whether that would stack up on appeal, I'm not so sure. And so my problem I have with this is the character and design, that I'm not convinced that this is a sort of in local character and history of a building which is very, very modern, surrounded by pretty much 1930s style housing. And let's be honest, it's surrounded by, you know, from the visuals that we've seen, clearly it is, in my opinion, not quite in character and design, but whether that's sufficient to be out of character and design, I'm not sure at this stage. So I'm rather wrestling with this one. The second point is that somewhere in this document it talks about metal framed windows. Now, that would be, I can see why they've been included in the design and character of this build, because it's a modern build. But I'm not convinced that whether we could have by condition, whether it would be acceptable at this stage to suggest that those aren't metal windows, because we're talking about brick build here. So at the very least, I would hope that more in keeping with the surrounding area, should we be minded tonight to approve this application, that I would have expected some hopefully a little bit of wiggle room on by condition about the framings of the windows, because at the moment I can't see that grey dark anthracite metal is necessarily in keeping with the local area, particularly as I take on board the comments from House Property 19, who according to the map do have probably the largest area of view from their rear garden to the side elevation compared to the other properties. So there's two things here. One is the character of the build, and whether there can be by condition to look at the window framing. So it's not metal framing, dark grey metal. And two, whether there can be by condition some 2 additional trees or 1 additional tree planted at the bottom where the elevation of house number 19 is towards the side elevation, because that is really the main property that's going to have the biggest part of the build seen from their rear of their property, facing down towards the new build. So if we're minded to approve, I'm wondering if it's appropriate at this stage to put in those 2 conditions. But as I say, my own personal view is I think it's really ugly. Okay. But that's not, right. I don't think that is a, right. I'm trying to wrap up, Chair, I promise. Okay. But I don't think that is sufficient to say that this is out of character. But if I can conclude my comments for now. I don't know whether that's an opportunity for Lucy to come back on those 2 points. Thanks.
Yes. Lucy, can you comment on the proposed conditions that were put forward by Councillor Shopper? Are those possible or doable?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say that just because it's a contemporary design doesn't necessarily mean that it's unacceptable from a character and design perspective. Just wanted to clarify again that this is not a conservation area. It's not an area of special local character. So there's no policy backing to state that a contemporary design would be unacceptable. So I just wanted to clarify that. I think the reason why the applicant has chosen metal windows is to match the standing seam metal roof. Whether, timber windows would be better, that's obviously a judgment call. We can look to secure conditions, a condition for final details of materials. However, it's ultimately up to the applicant to decide what materials will be put forward for the scheme. In a conservation area, we would typically like timber windows versus metal windows, but this is not a conservation area, and it's also will not be visible from the public realm. When you mentioned the neighbouring properties, the proposed northern elevation, I'll just get up. So there's only 2 windows, 2 very slimline windows that they'll look out onto. And from a 22-metre separation distance, you will not be able to determine what material those windows will be constructed of. And then your second point about the additional tree, we have secured a final landscaping scheme, so that can be addressed under that.
Okay, so that could be included in conditions?
Yes, the wording of the condition does state additional trees, so there's flexibility under the condition for...
yeah, I think Councillor Shopper was pointing out the actual positioning that she wanted, so I just wanted to... I'm just trying to bring up that... I guess this... So on the northern boundary, because there will be hedging...
It's the points that are really coming from property number 19 facing the side elevation. So if you're facing down towards what is probably on the map, the property which sees the most part of the side elevation is property number 19. So if you're looking from the ridge, number 19, the ridge, facing down to the side elevation, that's the area that I'd be most concerned about, just from the comments that have been presented tonight, whether that can be by condition to 1 or 2 trees that would act as a sort of obscure to alleviate that, to mitigate against that.
Councillor,
but that was really just the point of clarity. Thanks,
okay,
Chair.
thank you, Councillor. Can we just agree to perhaps leave that with the with officers to deal with, as with they understand, as Lucy I think understand, but I think Lucy will have to work with the applicant on the final landscaping plan. So
can we have that noted as a potential? Can that be by condition?
Oh, okay, yeah. Right, rather than, okay. I guess the question is, can you have that as a condition, or do you just need to go
So
back
we
and
have
look at the
secured it
plan?
by condition, whether it is reasonable and relevant and enforceable to include the requirement for that tree is another matter, because it is quite narrow, that space, and whether a mature tree can actually survive within that area is another matter.
Okay, so let's leave that with the officers to determine if that's okay. Councillor Herlinger, did you want to come in, please?
Yeah, just to come in. The officer sort of starts the report on point 1.4 by pointing out the key issues to consider. And in most applications, it then leads on to the various policies. And mostly in applications, you find that the policies support the application on sometimes, and on other policies the application falls. So I sort of looked on the 4 categories that I think are important to me about how this application stacks up against policy. First point was mentioned. The first point mentioned is scale and height, and the advantage of having gone on a site visit, as you and I and Councillor Shaper did yesterday, was that we could sort of see the site, look at the site from the site at the houses on the 2 roads that run parallel to it, and we could notice that a lot of the houses have been extended to 3 stories. So in terms of scale and height, I don't think it sort of clashes with policy there. The second area is design and character, and often when I look at design and character, I look at the street scene, but as the diagram showed, sort of when you show there is no change on the street scene. The third area is access and parking, and the transport engineer has supported the application, and if we went to appeal, that will be what the applicant would put forward, and the onus would be then on the council to come up with a transport engineer saying it wasn't viable, and I don't think that you would get a transport engineering saying it wasn't viable. And the fourth element that sort of interests me is the trees and ecology, and I noticed in the landscaping that there is a replacement of 2 trees for 1, which I think would improve the landscaping. The objector sort of mentioned how nice the area was. Well, it might have been before, but when we saw it yesterday, it looked overgrown and dilapidated. So I think the application is an improvement. And as Councillor Manders said, if we went to appeal, we would have to put very strong reasons to support a refusal, and I just don't see that we could sustain a refusal.
Thank you very much, Councillor. That was succinct. Appreciate that. And Councillor Wilders?
Yeah. Councillor Ian Manders knows his onions, he knows his stuff. I know that, I appreciate that. And he's talking a great deal of sense with regard to how we have to work in this environment. But I'm going to give the contrarian viewpoint on it. Given that this is backland with part 2-storey massing close to garden boundaries, and this actually has historically been the usual Kingston harms: character, overdevelopment, privacy, overbearing access, servicing. They're all in play here. Those are well-trodden, defensible, and I think in your term they are DM10 SPD grounds. On that basis, a refusal would be defensible and likely to be upheld on appeal, provided the reasons are tight and evidence-based. I mean, for my stance on this, having known that bit of land a long, long time, and the area, in short, it's harm to established rear garden character, overdevelopment, loss of privacy, overbearing for the part, two-storey form, and it's also inadequate, unsafe access, manoeuvring and servicing. And I could go on, but it's a committee. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Davies?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was going to say about this application when I arrived this evening, but I'd really like to thank my colleagues for their very wise words and sound advice, especially on talking about what would happen if it went to appeal. I'm still a bit concerned about fire access routes, but I'm sure that the officers will deal with that in time. But I am veering towards thinking that this is defensible. I don't love the design, but I do like the green roofs. And I suspect when it's actually been built, it won't have the impact that we think it will have at the moment, I hope.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Right, any further comments? Okay. So I'll now, if there are no further comments, I'll move to a vote on the matter. Can we take it as unanimous, or do we need to take a vote? We need to. Do we need to go back? Did you want to raise a condition?
Yeah, I think we've got a number of, we've got to go into the detail here.
Oh, okay.
Because what we can do is the conditions.
Okay, right.
Okay, so I have an issue, if we do grant this, with regard to the access and maintenance condition. I think that could be very significant. And of course, it goes without saying the very robust construction management plan that will be needed for what my colleague has discussed. But yeah, we really, really do need to look at the access and maintenance condition.
Do you have any specific proposals on what needs to be, those conditions would look like?
Well, if I was a planning specialist, I would have won this. I would have won it already tonight, but unfortunately, I'm not. So I'll leave it to us to deal with. But I mean, there clearly are access issues there, which have been discussed with the community here, because there are gates. There are no gates because there were gates, but they're not formally adopted.
There will be no gates.
No, what I mean by gates, there are gates from other gardens going into that section.
Yes, so pedestrian gates?
They are gates from other gardens into that space.
Mm-hmm. I'll just pull up sorry, it is quite small, but the proposed site layout plan quite clearly shows that the existing gates will be unaffected. They are on the right-hand side. I don't know if there and there.
Is there one behind?
Well, I think we find that there's going to be there's clearly an issue with that. If you can absolutely confirm that is the case.
Well, this is identified on the plans, and we would look to approve the plans, and therefore, if they did not comply with the plans, then that would be an enforcement matter.
Right. Okay. So right.
So the gate access. If we could just make sure the gate access is absolutely, because I saw about 1, 2, 3. I've got pictures of it. About 3 or 4 gates coming into that where the cars are moving about, not on the actual build itself, but on the actual access to it.
Yeah, and those gates will be unaffected as stated on the plans.
Okay.
But isn't that? But forgive me, and I'll leave it like this. But isn't that that would be part of the access and maintenance condition to make sure it is absolutely?
Yeah. Sorry, I'll jump in here. I believe the officer has clarified the point about the access, the gates as they're on the plan. As they're detailed on the plan, they're part of the planning application. Failure to protect those or preserve them would be a planning violation, and therefore would be subject to enforcement. So, and probably might be a grounds for it not being signed off at the final stage, I suppose. But anyways.
And my final thing is, what about the existing garages? Is there any implication on having those existing garages there and future?
So there's the garages on site, the ones that are not owned by the applicant, the third party, their access will remain unrestricted. There is no gates at the front of the driveway, so they will have full access onto the site to get to their garage.
Okay, and as I recall from the site visit, the garages the two ones that are marked in red and the white one next to it will not be demolished as part of that's in the plan. And the access to the one that had the blue door that's marked, it's white on the plan there, will continue to be accessible by the other person who owns it. Right.
Yeah, correct. So there will be no changes to the existing garage block, and the access to that third-party garage will remain unrestricted.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Is it anything else, Councillor? No. Okay.
Well, there is, but it's not. It's just the access. That's what's really so important. Is the access to that.
Right.
Because those garages. Yeah, it's academic, but I mean they could be other. It could be something else.
Okay.
It's an as if. It's a what if. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's why the access is so important.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. I think we established in the site visit with the officer that the garage was sort of outside of the remit of this planning application, apart from the fact that they're not going to be demolished. If there are no further comments, I'll now move to a vote on the matter. Can I ask all those in favour to raise your hands? Yes. Okay. And now those against, please raise your hand. I've got one. Okay, one. And any abstentions? 2 abstentions? Yes. Okay. Is that everybody?
So, Chair, there are 8 votes in favour, 1.
Sorry, that was 8 in favour, 1 against, and 2 abstentions. That means it is application is approved with conditions as stipulated. That's, I'm supposed to say, subject to conditions and informatives as set out in the report and late material to the committee. Authority will be delegated to the Director of Planning and Regeneration to finalise the conditions in consultation with the chair of the committee. So thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you to the applicants. Thank you to the objectors for coming here tonight. And thank you, members, for your questions and the debate. So moving on to item 8, which is the Berrylands, which is a decision notice, information item only, Berrylands Area Healthy Street Scheme. Consideration of objections to traffic management order. You can find this in Appendix C. I'll wait a moment while the people file out. Right, you can find this in Appendix C of the agenda pack. So at our meeting on the 17th of December 2024, the committee approved certain measures under the Berrylands Area Healthy Street Scheme by traffic management order. The committee also delegated authority to the Director of Highways, Transport and Regulatory Services to consider any objections to the TMO and decide on the way forward. Officers committed that an information item would be brought back to the committee after the Director had taken the decision. and the director made the decision on the 5th of September 2025 in consultation with the relevant councillors, and decision notice was published on the council website. It's included in the agenda for the committee's information. So that is, draw your attention. Yes, oh, sorry, Councillor Manders.
Councillor Manders,
Oh,
to speak into the mic or turn on.
Okay, thank you. No, just to say I'm very disappointed that the decision about Hollyfield Road, the removal of the parking spaces to King Charles Road, and was taken in that way. And I've really got a question, although we haven't got a highways officer here, is that what's happening about the double yellow lines, or rather single yellow lines at the Rayburn Avenue, the southern end of Rayburn Avenue, because that's not here on this, and I thought we should have some information on that.
Right, okay. Yes, I had the same question about Rayburn Avenue, to address that question first. And the reply I had from officers was there were no objections to it, so it's not mentioned in the decision notice. That was the explanation I had. But so it is proceeded in line with the traffic management order. And I trust, as that's your award, I trust that the work has been done?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, fantastic. Okay. That's good to know.
Thank you. Okay,
and regarding Hollyfield, we had 97 objections, primarily from your healthcare, and so the decision was to go back to your healthcare, consult with them, and come up with an alternative proposal. We're talking to highways. I'm talking to highways officers about what that might look like. But if you're interested in getting involved in that, I'd be happy to have your input.
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Draw your attention to the work program in Appendix D. Do members have any comments on the work program? I have to ask. Okay. Urgent items, there are none, so close the meeting at 22:14.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Councillor Yoganathan, I am so sorry.
It's all right, don't worry.
I did not.
We wanted to go home, but I just wanted to say the meeting was delayed because of the Willow Grange. We had that's happening in my ward. We had in excess of 20 people who were here. Out of the 20, nearly 10 of them come to me and said they never received any letters. So I said to them, no, I can't argue with them, but I know you and Herman was dealing with it. You see, we started delayed one. And I'm sure Jane is writing something about it, and Bob Tyler was running around with you. You see, by the end of the day, I already sent that one to SNC for all the councillors. I want to see what you can do to make sure. Is it because of the school holidays, or is it genuinely there was a problem?
Right. So
that's all I wanted to leave it to you. But we don't want that one discussed. But you can take it away.
Okay,
because
I will.
You've got to write it as well because your meeting was delayed by so much. Mm-hmm. Why? So I thought I will come back and give you that feeling.
Okay. Yes. Yes. I do apologise for the meeting being delayed 8 minutes. I felt it was necessary to try and explain to residents. I made some attempts to, to let people know about it. But of course, that's very difficult. I have looked into it. I was very surprised that with 22 written objections, we didn't have anybody registered. And I made some inquiries with planning regarding and democratic services regarding this. I've been shown copies of the letter, and I've been shown copies of the distribution list for it. so which was via email. So I've tried to satisfy myself that that those steps were taken, but I do have some issues that I'm still investigating to find out why that happened. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed,
okay.
sir. Thank you.
So now I close the meeting at 22:16. Thank you very much, everybody.